Now this is where it gets a bit scary for me, because we're going to introduce 9 different groups who are exhibiting today for 5-minute talks, and we've got a technique so that we don't run over time. And when they've got 30 seconds left, at 4 minutes 30 seconds, you should start hearing this with a bit of luck. Maybe not quite that loud, but so we're determined to improve on this morning's timekeeping. So would from shared interest, Peter Freeman, I think, hopefully will be first up, and Derek from our environmental group will need to be on hand to go next. This should last 45 minutes if everybody keeps to time, and then we'll have another little break. That mic should be working for you, Peter.
Is that working? Yes, thank you. So let me start with my 5 minutes by asking whether there are any members here from shared interest. Really, quite a lot. So about 15 people raising their hands. Thank you very much. Welcome to you all, and thank you for current investors. Shared Interest is a cooperative based in Newcastle, founded 25 years ago to provide finance for fair trade on the basis of Christian values and ethics. It was founded by a group of investors from the Scottish Council of World Churches. The first chief executive was motivated by his Catholic faith, and on its board now are a senior executive from Christian Aid and at least 2 other directors who are involved in a range of faith-based institutions. We now have something like nearly 10,000 members across the UK who invest money with us, and the money is used to finance fair trade. The way it works is something like this. Members can invest from anything from £100 upwards, the more the merrier. We have about £36 million currently invested with us. And that money is used to finance, initially, when we started, organisations in the UK like Tradecraft, who imported from developing countries, now mostly to producer outfits in Latin America, in Africa, and in Asia. We have 5 overseas offices to help do that. Mostly it goes to cooperatives, and what they do is they finance their working capital. So a cooperative in Uganda producing pineapples or coffee will borrow from shared interest in order to purchase the raw material from the farmers, and will pay back after the harvest and after they have processed the money. So it provides their working capital. And that enables us to use the money over and over again. That £36 million last year, we managed to make payments of over £60 million because it was used more than once in the year. And yet you, as investors, can withdraw your money whenever you want to, as long as not everybody does it at once, of course. And you also get paid, at the moment, a very small amount of interest, 0.25%. So it's a grand-scale cooperative which helps to finance fair trade on the basis of Christian values. No ringing tone so far, so I'm going to quote to you just a couple of examples of the kind of organisations we're working with. ALPA, A-L-L-P-A, is a Peruvian handicraft organisation whose name means earth in Quechua. It employs 27 people and benefits hundreds of handicraft producers. ALPA benefited from an export credit facility with shared interest since 2014. From Guatemala, Ucasa is a honey and sesame seed cooperative. They use a shared interest credit facility to increase their export volumes, provide a reliable income to farmers, enabling them to support school and church activities in their community. They train the beekeepers, they support the reforestation of their farms with native trees to protect the environment and improve the quality of the honey. And they've been very good at repaying the loans that shared interests have provided them. So as a member, you get a quarterly booklet telling you about some of the organisations that your money is being used to help, and you get invited along to regional meetings where you can hear some of the paid people from shared interest and some of the volunteers like me or Trevor, who's been working with us, coming and talking about shared interest. I'll speed things up by ending there. Thank you very much.
Marvellous, Peter. Thank you very much. Derek, are you ready, Derek? Thank you. Thank you very much, Peter. Be careful on the steps.
I've forgotten my reading glasses, so can you be
Yeah,
gentle
Derek's
with
forgotten
me?
his reading glasses, so I don't know what he's going to be talking about, but he's a member of the Diocesan Environmental Group that works under the auspices of our Justice and Peace Commission. So good luck, Derek.
Thank you. This is an introduction to the newly formed Diocesan Environmental Group. St. John Paul II said in his peace message in January 2001, humanity is at the edge of an abyss. Human beings must understand the impact they are having on their environment by ensuring they are complying with the wonderful plan that is God's creation. Our newly formed Diocesan Environment Group is taking this message forward with the aim of bringing about a new covenant between humanity and the environment in this diocese. We're hoping to do this in three areas, through prayer, formation and mission. Firstly, with regards to our prayer life, we need to discover the relationship between the common good and ecology, i.e. bringing about a balanced lifestyle which our prayer life both encourages and enhances. Secondly, in terms of forming our faith, we need to take a full part in the sacramental and formation programs given to us, so that we can build, grow and sustain our journey in God's creation. And finally, our mission. The Catholic Bishops' Conference of England Wales 2002 pointed out only a few people are directly involved with the political arena. Society promotes the common good and defence of the environment, but as Christians we are called to be witnesses. The environmental crisis has shown us how interdependent God's creation is with our choices and actions, which not only affect ourselves but other people and the very planet we live on. We need to bring about an understanding of the sign of the times. So we need to be committed, recognising that our environmental concerns and ethical responsibilities, whilst bringing about an understanding of the special relationship that exists with our environment, and being a prophet through our witness. The Environment Group has two areas which are already in progress, which we can tell you a little about, and these are the Live Simply Award and Disinvestment. The Live Simply Award is a challenge for us all, where the question asked is, can you live sustainably, caring for creation, considering how your actions affect others today and in the future, and not wasting resources but living within the earth's means. God has made the earth and all that it contains for all to share. The earth's goods must be divided fairly, and this right of everyone to a just share to a share comes first. All Catholics are called to act on this, and especially the richer countries must play their part to help development of their poorer brothers and sisters. They should be in the forefront of those who fight to build a better world based on justice and equality. The Live Simply Award is an opportunity for Catholic communities, parishes, schools, religious orders, etc., to respond to Pope Francis's invitation to work with generosity and tenderness in protecting this world which God has entrusted to us. It's awarded to communities who can show that they're living in three ways, three areas. Firstly, living simply, living in solidarity with people in poverty, and thirdly, living sustainably with creation. So if you're up for the challenge, why not become a Live Simply parish and join other parishes in the diocese working for this award? There's no shortage of ideas for your parish to consider when planning for the award, and one of our volunteers is happy to visit your parish to help get you started and give any extra assistance that you need. Parishes in our diocese that have achieved Live Simply status include St Mary the Angels in Worthing, who've achieved the status, and several others from Bognor, and I can't think what the others were, are all in the process of doing so. There is useful information including a guide to the award, a pamphlet on what other parishes have done, and one called 100 Live Simply Ideas, and these are all available on the environmental stall at the back. And of course you can get online resources as well at livesimplyaward.org.uk. The second issue is disinvestment. As we've already heard, Father Augustus emphasised that 99% of scientists agree that global temperature has to be kept below 2 degrees to avoid catastrophic climate change by the end of the century. And they also agree that only 1/5 of present fossil fuel reserves can be burnt to stay within that limit. But the fossil fuel industry continues to spend vast amounts promoting and exploring for more carbon reserves. And this has prompted a massive global reaction, with nearly 200 institutions to date having disinvested. I'm going to have to go down to the bottom to say that if we want to follow Father Augustus as the suggestion in pushing our parishes, encouraging our bishops, then there is a lot of information on our stall, including sample letters to write, a petition to also sign, which will go up to our parish, and the signs are positive to date. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Gosh, excellent timing, Derek. Have a glass of water. Next up, Jack Doherty from Global Justice Now, who invited me down to talk at an event in Bexhill a couple of months ago. Good luck, Jack.
Thank you very much. From Global Justice. Some of you may know that Global Justice was formerly World Development Movement, but the developing world did not like the word development because too many people went in developing them by exploitation. So Global Justice Now says what it means. They look at the global justice, looking at the root causes of the problems of human beings in all walks of life around the world, especially in the developing world, obviously. Now, looking at the root causes, at the moment, human beings in all forms of employment are under huge threat from the various, what we're going to hear more and more about, trade deals. TTIP, TPP, CETA, and the worst and most secret one at the moment, going to devastate the country and the world, is the transnationals, TISA, the Trade in Services. Google it. Don't leave it just to happen. What they're going to do with human rights, with the workers, they're shifting right around the globe. They're taking over. This is not paranoia. They're taking over control. And 60% of the trade in the world is going to be governed by TISA. Now, one of the recent papers, very relevant to what's happening at the moment, is the Global Justice one here on the migrants' crisis. Now, you and I know there is not a migrants' crisis. There might be a migration crisis, but don't blame the migrants. They have not caused the problem. The causes of migration, which has been touched on by earlier speakers, is climate change. They're having to flee from the awful devastation, drought, flooding, etc. In Syria, for example, at the head of the point at the moment, 2000 to 2006, there were droughts. And that could have been the cause of the present problem. They had to flee the land to live. We would have done it. And then there were flooding and everything else, overcrowding in the cities, they weren't catered for, and that is exacerbating the whole problem. And Global Justice looks and campaigns on issues like that. Another cause, obviously, is poverty. Poverty is man-made. Laudato Si and so on, we all know that. So it can be solved. We all have a role. Global Justice is playing a big part, punching beyond its weight, as people said earlier, about other movements. War is a cause of migrants having to come. They haven't caused a war. They are the victims. So don't blame them for that. We as a government, as a country, our elected politicians are selling arms, which has been bombs dropped on these people, causing them to flee if they're lucky enough to escape. So what I would ask you to do, please, for more information, if you can sign up at the Global Justice stall there. Can I also point out a brilliant book I'm reading at the moment by Peter Tinti and Tuesday Ratano. If you haven't come across this, it's only out. Please get it. Migrants, refugees, smuggler, saviour. The number of smugglers is a huge industry. It's a whole economy trying to get people out. Don't condemn them too fast. They happen to be the saviours. Criminals, many of them, but some of them are the saviours. People cannot get out of these towns without a saviour, without a smuggler. Some of them are, as I said, awful criminals, abusing, raping, and so on. And some of the refugees said they will put up with that. But some of the smugglers are idealists who want to help children, widows, to get out. This book is brilliant. Talks to another one again. I won't go on. I can't go on.
You can stop there if you want.
There are 95. A couple of years ago, there are 95 million people unemployed between the age of 15 and 28. Think of who they are ripe for exploitation. If I can quickly, this is not a bag of rice. The farmers in Malawi need you to buy this to educate their children in secondary school. 90 of these bags, 300 quid, gets them.
You have to go and see Jack and let him finish the story about the bag of rice. 90 kilogram rice challenge. Brilliant.
That's it. Yeah.
The countdown clock is working. Martin and Joe, please. Martin and Joe from CAFOD are going to talk about ways that you can get involved after today.
Hi there. Our first way you can get involved is come to one of our local meetings that are happening to promote Lent Fast Day on the 10th of March. We have meetings from all over the diocese, from Redhill to St Leonard's, Storrington to Crawley, and a full list is in the booklets that you'll receive at the end of the session. So please come along and find out about our livelihood project in Zambia. Do let us know if you're coming, so it helps us to get the right number of biscuits.
You've probably all heard the phrase speaking truth to power, and our faith history is full of prophets and people who speak truth to powerful people. We have a group of volunteers who do exactly the same thing. I think I've mentioned them before. They're MP correspondents, so these are people who write to their MP maybe 3-4 times a year, maybe try to meet their MP and raise particular points that are particularly important for global justice, for so many things. If you're interested in being one of these, it's quite light, it's quite easy. We provide support and letter templates and things like that. Very easy to do, very powerful in these very politically interesting times. So please do take one of these leaflets and consider it.
We also have a series of webinars where you can just go online to the CAFOD website and sign up and then listen to them in the comfort of your own home. We have one on the 30th of January, which is Exploring Palestinian Realities, from 7:15 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. And it's the Jerusalem Legal Aid Centre about Palestinian human rights. So that's a very interesting one. And then on Thursday, 23rd of February at 1 p.m, we have our CAFOD partner, Sister Yvonne, who will be talking about sustainable livelihoods in Zambia. So if you'd like to listen to those, you need to go on to the CAFOD website, click on events and sign up. Also, we do have a Lampedusa cross going around the diocese at the moment. These were crosses that have been made from the wood of shipwrecked boats carrying refugees across the Mediterranean Sea by a carpenter from the island of Lampedusa. These crosses have been used in many parishes already with the Refugee Solidarity Liturgy, which gives parishioners an opportunity to write messages for hope for refugees. There is a liturgy coming up at Worth Abbey on the 3rd of February, and also one Our Lady of Sorrow, Bognor Regis, on the 11th of February. So if you would like to host a Lampedusa cross with your parish, do get in touch with us at the A&B office.
And we also have lots of resources around Laudato Si, which are available on our stall. Not least this parish study guide. So it's where you can do over 4 weeks, 4 evenings. You can have a brief look through Laudato Si. It's got particular passages. It's very easy to lead, very easy to do. We're doing it in our own parish in Horsham. Really nice group gathered. Had a really lively debate about fracking, various other things. Really easy to do. So please do pick up one of those, and also use it as a chance to celebrate. There is a lot to celebrate. Father Augusto mentioned that. You can use it as a chance to celebrate some of the good things that are happening. And you can also, there are various quotes from Laudato Si. If you want to build up a bit of interest, maybe try to convince people who aren't necessarily into the ecological kind of thing, put some of Laudato Si quotes into your parish newsletter beforehand to try and stimulate some of that interest. And finally, I'd just like to say thank you. I look around the room and see so many people that I recognise who do so much good throughout the diocese, throughout the world, so I'd just like to take this chance to say thank you for doing that.
Thank you very much indeed, Martin and Joe. Moyna's up next. Moyna, they did it with 1 minute 30 seconds to spare, so if you want to beat that, I won't complain. Moyna's a member of the Justice and Peace Commission, as is Martin, who we've just heard from.
Thank you very much. Martin Luther King said that before we had finished breakfast, we'd had half the world to thank for the things that we'd eaten. We've been considering who is my neighbour. Before the Industrial Revolution, your neighbour was probably the person who worked in the fields in your own village. Now that we are in a global society, it's very important to keep the link between the food we eat and the growers. This is very difficult with the large food companies and the supermarkets who are always wanting to buy the cheapest available, blaming that on us because we want cheap food. For every £1 you spend on chocolate that is not fair trade, half a p goes to the grower. Fair trade has grown in this country over the last 35 years, but in the last 4 years, sales have declined. Bishopston and Tiercraft no longer exist as fair trade organisations. Tesco no longer sells fair trade bananas or geobars. The total sales of fair trade for the year are still less than Tesco's for 1 week. The supermarkets pay the correct wage for fair trade goods and the premium, but they do not do any of the development. There are many fair trade companies, Divine Chocolate, Cafe Direct, Tradecraft, Liberation Nuts and Zaytoon, which is mainly olive oil from Palestine. They give the producer a lot of extra help in forming cooperatives and developing agriculture and business skills. On top of that, they also look at the fair trade rules. Tradecraft call it going the extra mile, which I think has already been mentioned today. So if you buy from your Tradecraft stall instead of the supermarket, you will be helping producers even more. Tradecraft also has an area called Tradecraft Exchange, and this is about considering the unjust laws. At the moment, they're very concerned about the effect of Brexit on the poorest countries. This is because many of the producers in the poor countries are already spending their premium on the issues of climate change. Our diocese of A&B is a fair trade diocese, having just managed to reach 52% of the churches becoming fair trade churches. There are also some schools and universities. So we would quite like to increase that number. A lot of you have shown a great enthusiasm for the stall today, and I thank you very much for buying the fair trade goods. We're coming up to Fair Trade Fortnight, and so some of you will be organising fair trade breakfasts, big brews, and obviously some sales as well. The idea of that it's both fundraising and also we're managing to support the producers. We'll be spreading the word about fair trade amongst our friends and colleagues. If you haven't started yet, there is still time to send off for the Tradecraft Big Brew pack or the Fairtrade Foundation pack. There's information in your booklet, which you'll get at the end of the day. So, I hope that you've enjoyed looking at some of the fair trade and that you will continue to buy from Tradecraft and the other companies in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Moina, and many congratulations on another fantastic stall. I know you didn't do it single-handedly, so to you and your colleagues, it looks magnificent from here. Could we have David Roberts now from St Leonard's SVP?
Good afternoon, everybody. St Leonard's is the only government dispersal centre in the southeast of the UK. It's been going for 16 years. It's a multi-agency partnership that provides support and advice for asylum seekers, refugees, and excluded minority ethnic population living in the area. The service users include asylum seekers, refugees, new migrant communities, EU citizens and trafficked women. There are commonalities between all these groups, but they are not one single homogeneous community. The Links project was started in 2001 by a couple from Our Lady Star of the Sea in Hastings, who met a family on the beach who turned out to be Kosovan asylum seekers. The couple decided to befriend them, and together with the SVP began a befriending group. When Hastings Borough Council was made an asylum dispersal area, the number of asylum seekers who were accommodated locally increased dramatically, and the group was given the use of St Leonard's Community Centre for a drop-in, which operated every Wednesday. At the centre they provided clothes and practical help. Then a retired teacher joined the group and began to teach English classes. A health visitor realised it was easier for her to see children and babies of migrants in one centre and also became involved. Links now is very much a multi-agency partnership offering a range of services which include advocacy support for immigration, all immigration matters, NHS advice nurse, health visitors, education key support worker, East Sussex Mental Health, Terence Higgins Trust, Citizens Advice Bureau, ESOL classes, and health and wellbeing trainers. The SVP is still offering clothes, but very much more practical help, as well as home visiting, befriending, and ongoing support to the more vulnerable clients. Since recent cuts to the welfare budget and legal aid, the SVP has supported asylum seekers with rail fares to cover travel costs of reporting to the Home Office Centre in East Croydon and to solicitors for their appeal interviews. Our main achievements over the past 2 years have been to establish a more structured approach to learning English through arranging with Sussex Coast College for asylum seekers to receive free English classes 5 days a week. The SVP also provides ESOL training to mothers with young children at Links, and we support wellbeing classes for young mothers by providing creche facilities for children under 5. The whole initiative has increased awareness of the importance of learning English quite dramatically. Secondly, we have started a befriending and mentoring service for the more vulnerable clients who need more intensive support. In addition to overcoming social isolation and learning English, probably the most significant and growing problem is destitution amongst asylum seekers. The asylum application process itself can take anything from 6 months to 10 years. During this period, the asylum seeker can become dependent, passive, and somewhat institutionalized. The most critical time for an asylum seeker as an individual is when he or she receives their leave to remain. And from that moment, they have 28 days in which to obtain a national insurance number, apply for job seekers allowance or universal credit, find somewhere to live and get a job. Clearly, this is quite impossible. And as a result, many asylum seekers end up destitute. Some of them leave the area and relocate to London or Birmingham or to another area where they have family or contacts, but many end up destitute. Shortage of local rental property, lack of social housing, lack of funds for deposit, and cost of rent are all factors. Just recently, the SVP has begun working with Refugees at Home. Refugees at Home is a small, newly formed UK-based group who connect people with spare rooms in their home with asylum seekers and refugees in need of accommodation. They try to help two categories of people. First of all, those who've been refused asylum and are appealing. This includes the majority of asylum seekers in the UK from many different countries. Secondly, people who've been granted refugee status but who had to vacate their NAS-supported accommodation within 28 days. Although they only started in October 2015, they've already placed over 300 refugees in volunteer homes. I've been in the SPP for many years, and I've only been involved with asylum seekers for the past 2 years. One of the main lessons I've learned is that where the SVP model has been so helpful is that each asylum seeker refugee comes... Thank you.
I think you got the gist. I mean, we've got a table here. Last year we had a longer stretch on the SVP, and we heard about inspiring work that was going on here in Crawley from Steve Nunn. And it really did have a long-term effect. So people really became far more aware, and he said he got quite a bit of financial support as a result of that talk. So I wanted to give another example in our diocese of the work of SVP, and it's been going on, as David said, for many, many years there in St. Leonard's. Next up is Anna. Anna is from Eastbourne, and a relatively new network called Networx that she's going to talk to us about.
Oh, good afternoon. I'm here to prove that Baptists can work with Catholics. I come from Victoria Baptist Church in Eastbourne, and bring you greetings from the church. I'm here with my colleague Sandy Medway. Networx was established about 15 months ago now to pick up the refugees that were brought to our attention in Eastbourne. We sit very comfortably between Hastings and Brighton, and until recently we have not really known what it means to have refugees in our town. And now it's a growing thing which we very much feel we have been called to do. It was the summer of 2015 when I, like I'm sure most of you, was watching television and watching those awful pictures we were seeing of all these migrants coming across. And I was praying and saying, Lord, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? And I heard him very clearly saying something, you're going to do something about it. So it was so strong and it was so convincing that I thought, okay, fine, yes, I will. And I actually met a few colleagues within a few days who had felt the same thing. And we got together and created Networx. And we felt very much that the Holy Spirit has been working with us all the time. Time, as we have already said, is this is a huge commitment. It starts early in the morning and ends late at night, but it is the only way in which we can get the work done. I just want to bring you a couple of stories to just say to you that the Spirit has been so much at work that we have really felt God answering our prayers before we've even asked, as it says in the Bible. So recently I had a family living in dire situation in Eastbourne from Venezuela in this case. Venezuela's in a terrible mess just at the moment, and they were trafficked here, and there were two tiny children, and they were living in awful conditions. They were in church the Sunday, and the father was crying and saying, Anna, I've got to get out of that house, I've got to get out of the house. And I said, how long have I got then? He said, a week. So it's over to you, God, because I can't do this. And they didn't have enough money for the house. So I sent a letter out to everybody in the church, and I included in that Martin Rolfe, who runs Churches Together. The letter went out across the email, and within half an hour I had 3 offers. I go to the last offer because that was the one. The lady called me and said, Anna, I've just read your letter. I have a second flat. My heart went. I was just praying to God. I did not know what to do with it. I was about to sell it because it's sitting empty for a month now. The lady who was in it up until Christmas left me, so I have an empty flat. I said, can I come and see it, please? And it was paradise compared to the home that these people were living in. The lady had been paying £400 a week for one room that was not heated. It was 12 degrees. It was in the loft. 2 children. So when she met, when I brought the family down and they met the landlady, I had a conversation between them, and the young Venezuelan lady said, "But I don't know that I can afford this." And she said to her, "How much are you paying for your room now?" And she said, £400 a week. She said, "Well, in that case, dear, I will charge you £350. And I will not charge you for utilities, and I will not charge you for council tax until such time as you can stand on your own feet and not rely on the food bank for food and clothes for your children." And that, I think, is a good Samaritan. And I want to just stand here and say thank you to you too, to the Catholic Church, because you have supported us considerably in what we have been doing, and in Eastbourne particularly, but also through the grant that we got from you. Christmas time, you had lots of presents for children, and somebody, I hope I can say this, am I allowed to say this about the bicycle? A bicycle was given to us, and I thought, who would I like to give it to more than anybody else? And I have a little Algerian girl who is 9 years old and really would rather not live, and she has said so several times. And I told her mother that she would get a bicycle. She said, "Anna, the one thing my daughter wants is a bicycle." And I didn't know that. And I said, "But I'm afraid it's purple." She said, "That's her favourite colour." I think God answers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. We're going to end today with a talk. Mary Jane, who joined us thankfully at lunchtime, and I are going to share an update on our diocesan response. And I won't go echo what Anna's going to say too much, but yes, it's great to hear that from Anna rather than from me. Next up is Mary Barrett, going to talk about Refugee Tales, which is first 2 days are going to be in our diocese this year, which is fantastic news.
Well, do any of you fancy a walk along the Thames on a summer's day and the chance to talk to somebody you've never met before? Well, that's what Refugee Tales will offer you, starting on the 1st of July in Runnymede. Now, we've talked about British values. How about Magna Carta? Now, Magna Carta started here, just along the river, at Runnymede when it was signed in 1215, and that enshrined in law the rights of every single individual in this country, and it is being carried across the world. Hugely important, and that's where we will start our walk this year. For the third time, Refugee Tales will walk, and as Refugee Tales walks, it talks and it thinks about how people have walked across the world. Refugees walk, that's what they have to do. If they have to leave where they live, where their country, their home, they will walk. And that's what we do. We walk along paths that have been walked by over centuries by people in this country. And we walk with people like yourselves. We walk with people who are refugees themselves, who've been held in detention. And every evening when we stop, we sit and we listen to the stories of these people. And these stories are told by writers and poets who've listened to those who are refugees themselves and those who support them. And that the whole idea of Refugee Tales is built on something great from the 12th century, the Canterbury Tales. And the Canterbury Tales, again, were stories told from people from different places who come together and who share their experiences. And that's what Refugee Tales is about. We will walk from Runnymede, we will walk for a day and a half through this diocese. And I really do hope that the diocese will come out in their droves to support us, because we're going to walk from Runnymede to Walton-on-Thames, and in the afternoon of the 1st of July we'll be stopping at the Church of Christ Prince of Peace in Weybridge to listen to a talk about due process. And we're having a series of talks along the way thinking about how due process of law has been so crucial to the way this country has developed, and how nowadays it is not attended to. And the reason for that, in the way that I'm most passionate about, is the way people are held in detention. in immigration detention, because the whole notion of Refugee Tales comes from Gatwick Detainees Welfare Group, and I'm sure a lot of you know about it. In fact, there are a number of visitors here today. Gatwick Detainees Welfare Group was founded over 20 years ago. Unfortunately, I say, because it shouldn't be in existence. At Gatwick Airport, a couple of miles away from here, nearly 500 men are being held at any time. At Heathrow Airport, it's more like 800. And across the country, over 30,000 people are being held in immigration detention at any time. Now, these people are held, and some of them have reason to be removed from this country. We're not actually challenging that, but they do not have reason to be held for weeks, months, or years. And currently, we are the only country in Europe that holds people indefinitely. And our campaign, which we are working through the Refugee Tales project, is to inform the people in this country about the scandal of indefinite detention. I can tell you from having been a visitor for over 20 years that to be held in detention and not to know when you are going to be released or if you're going to be returned to your country of origin is absolutely so detrimental to their physical and mental health. So I urge you to consider this. Go back to your parishes, and particularly if you live along the route between Runnymede and Kingston upon Thames, or you can come and join us at any point as well. Please talk about that. Think about how you could engage your communities in understanding a little bit about the campaign for indefinite detention. We have a book which is the stories that were told in our first walk. It's on sale published by Comma Press. If you belong to a book club, maybe, you could actually take that book and use it as your book club book. And then one of us would be happy to come along and discuss it. It's a really exciting project that has engaged a number of us. You could walk for a day, half a day, you could walk the whole walk, bookings on sale now. And if you do walk, you could well be under the leadership of our very...
Oh, hold that thought.
The leadership of Aidan here. Now, Aidan is a celebrated walk leader who has gained great notoriety in the annals of Refugee Tales for his great skill in leading us, sometimes in the wrong direction. But anyway, so...
The countdown clock is not working.
No.
You have. I'm not joking. You have gone past your 5 minutes.
I have.
Mary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Leaflets are available at the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, and Robin up there. Yeah, that was a subject particularly close to my heart. Partly because I visit someone in detention. I've been visiting the same person, would you believe, for 16 months now, and he's waiting on a decision from a hearing. So I just completely endorse everything Mary has just said, as I have for everybody else. I've lost Robin Olivier. Oh, sorry, Robin. Last but not least, is that what you wanted to say, Robin? This is the final talk. And Robin is a member of our Social Action Commission, and he's going to talk about something that we're planning, and definitely something that we could all, or some of us at least, could do after today. Good luck, Robin.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you, Aidan. You asked me to make this session fun. I have to say it, I think the last slot in the first session after lunch is probably not fun. It's more like nap time, if you're like me. So I'd be inclined to say wakey, wakey. And you also said this session was a bit like speed dating. Well, that's quite interesting. Not something I've ventured into. Could be fun, but might be quite challenging. So let's move on. What we want to promote is this half day on Saturday the 25th of March for the Social Action Commission. Now, why are we talking about social action at a JMP event? Well, I think for two reasons. Social action and JMP are really two sides of the same coin. I suspect most of us know the story about the picnickers sitting by the river, and you're seeing bodies float, or people floating down the river in distress, and you stop and pick them out, and it happens again and again, until finally somebody goes up the river to see why they're falling in. And I think that's a simplistic tale, but it does illustrate a bit the difference between social action and justice and peace, which of course is also action, but there's a very grey boundary in between them. And also I think a lot of us are engaged in both social action and justice and peace, so hopefully we've got an interested and captive audience. So we want to really expand and build on the Commission. And during the talks this morning, I found myself reflecting to think, well, do we actually need a Commission? Do we want to engage people in further talking rather than just get out there and get on with it? Well, we don't want to be a talk shop, but I do think there's a real value in coming together and networking and supporting one another, affirming what's going on and seeing how we can develop new ideas and cross-fertilise ideas. So on this day, we want to bring people together to share our vision, see where we're going with social action, reflect on what we're doing, see what if we're going in the right direction, whether we might change. We want to build up our information of what's going on in the diocese, the various welfare activities. We want to build a database and map what's going on. I think it's important that we do recognise all that's happening and perhaps we blow our own trumpet a bit. And I think beneficial too that we gather together all those small activities, the whole picture being greater than the sum of the parts. And I think people may be out there thinking, well, we're not doing very much at all, but in actual fact, they are doing a lot. And altogether, that does make a lot. And I think too, having that sort of information, we know what's going on, we know what's needed, and that's good information if we want to lobby for resources or changes of policy, which of course takes us into J&P action. And also, I think we need to be a bit more representative. The Commission has only 4 members, Alison Healy in Crawley, Joe and Peter Cropp in Brighton, and me in Shoreham. And lovely as the South Coast is, it doesn't represent the whole diocese, so we do need to widen that. And I think probably also other interests, for example, mental health, young people, disability, and indeed refugees. And I think we don't want to claim that we have a monopoly on doing good work. We want to work with other people of other faiths, of no people, of people of no faith, but people of goodwill who are, I think, contributing to build up the kingdom of God. So let's make a date. Come along to on the 25th of March, share your ideas, your thoughts, your questions and challenges, and help us to help others to build up that kingdom. Thank you very much.
Excellent, Robin. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to have a short break to give us all the opportunity to visit those tables if our interests have been stimulated as a result of any of those talks. It's 2:45, so I would say we're going to shorten. The last session will be a little bit shorter. So if I say 20 minutes, in reality that will be 25 minutes. So let's have 20 minutes. There should be more refreshments available, and we'll resume at 3:05. Just to say, you've got feedback forms. Feedback's very, very important on a day like today. What you got out of it, what you think we could do next year, themes, and just the way the day is put together. And there is a goodie bag, a tradecraft bag for everybody to take home with them, and it includes all sorts of different bits of information, but in particular a resource booklet, and that will probably be promoting the day that Robin has just been talking to you about. Thank you.